to the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate North American Online Open May 2020, our second half of our doubleheader here. And with that, we welcome you in, Jordan Kent, alongside Vicky Kitty and Coney. And Coney, welcome back to the party. I know you really enjoyed watching the finals that we had for Region 5 and 6. What'd you take away from that?
Yeah, I was just watching it as I was taking care of other things, and every time I look back, Dialga is just mopping somebody. I saw the 3-stock that they got on, I think, Justin, and I was like, wow, this guy's good. And seeing him take it all the way with a character like Bayonetta, who historically has been a little hot and cold, let's say, really good to see. I'd like to see Justin sort of going the Crom, trying the Game Watch, played so many different characters but could not pull it out. But I'm super excited to see who we have next because a lot of familiar names coming up.
Yeah, let's certainly get to the action here. I know Vicky and I had a great time calling the action earlier in the 5 and 6. And, you know, we've got the top 4 players of nearly 3,000 players in Region 3 and 4. And what they're going to be playing for, it hasn't changed. It's still a terrific prize. You get a download code for the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters Pass Volume 2, the Splatoon 2 game, and the ARMS game as well, too, to go along with those bragging rights amongst your friends and colleagues. Let's go ahead and take a look at the bracket and see who's going to be scoring off against each other today, because we've got some really exciting matchups and some really talented players taking center stage. And Vicky, you see a familiar face in the name of Arrow. We remember Arrow back in 2019, and I want to continue to look at what they can do. And I know Vicky will have some thoughts on Arrow here in just a moment. But Coney, what about Leaf? This is somebody that we've seen really utilize a lot of multiple fighters.
Yeah, so Leaf actually has played so many characters to get here. We've seen him play Bayonetta also, so we might see that character make another appearance. Rosalina and Luma and Peach, and these 3 fighters having actually a lot in common with each other. You wouldn't think so at first glance, but from what we've seen, a lot of players that have played Peach in the past can also play Bayonetta as well. 2 sort of similar fighters in some circumstances, but then you have Rosalina, who's sort of the wild card, right? Having that puppet play style, using that Luma to keep opponents out rather than sort of having that up-close brawling style like you were talking about with Bayonetta and Peach.
And you mentioned that up-close brawling style with Bayonetta and Peach, and we've seen some counter picks that take place sometimes here, Coney. It seems like when you make that counter pick, are you looking to find a fighter that has a similar play style that you're comfortable with, meaning, hey, I typically play as brawlers, I typically play as rushdown characters, or are you looking for a counter pick that is a completely different style so that you throw another wrinkle at your opponent?
I think it really comes down to where you feel comfortable, because some characters are versatile enough that you can change up your entire playstyle. You can change everything about what you're doing and find a tool that can totally reshape a matchup. That said, some characters can sometimes be a little bit more limited in their game plan. Mr. Game & Watch might be a good example. He's pretty obvious in what he's going to do, but it doesn't matter against some characters because that one thing that he does, he's very, very effective at. So it really comes down to knowing your character, knowing the opponent, what they can do about your character, and trying to make things happen that way.
Yeah, we're getting a couple things recalibrated as we get set for action here shortly. And as we continue to get ready for that action here, Coney, you know, we've had a lot of conversations about what's needed and what's necessary from a lot of these top level players as they get set. And, you know, it really seems like it's this combination of I've got to be aggressive, certainly, and put the pressure on my opponent, but I also have to be really good at reading of what my opponent is doing and learning what they do throughout a game, throughout a match, so that I can change my play style somewhat.
Absolutely, yeah. Adaptability is the name of the game. You can have the strongest game plan in the world. You can know exactly what you're doing as you're going into it. But as soon as you take that first hit, as soon as you lose that first stock, all that can go out the window. Everybody thinks they can fight until they get punched in the mouth, you know? That's what it comes down to. And when you watch these matches, sometimes you see that somebody gets into the game and they're like, wait, this isn't going at all how I expected it to. And that's where the counter pick can come in, like you were talking about, maybe characters, maybe changing up the play style, hitting the brakes a little bit, like we've seen with other characters in the past. So at the top level, it's all about who can outpace the other, who can react faster. And that's especially important in a best of 3 because you only have at most 3 games to figure out your opponent, which can be very difficult.
Yeah, and it happens really quickly, and being able to get that advantage. And one thing that we saw on that Region 5 and 6 was, all right, 3 players had some very diverse fighter backgrounds that they could work with and pull from. But it was really Dialga and the Bayonetta riding Bayonetta and that fighter specialization that sometimes, listen, matchups are not, if you're really good with one particular fighter, that's all you're going to need to be victorious.
Yeah. If you are exceptionally good with the one character, especially if, like I said before, if they are a versatile enough character to sort of take you to the top, you're usually going to be fine. So, for instance, Bayonetta, she can do multiple things. She can get up in your face and do 60, 70, sometimes 80% off one combo, or she can play a little bit further back, wait for an opening, use that burst option of the afterburner kick into her opponent. And because it's so fast, it can be difficult to react to. And that just means that she can pull it out at any moment. You actually see Bayonettas do this a lot, and I'm interested to see if Leaf utilizes it if he ends up going Bayonetta. What they'll do is they'll sit by the ledge, and then they'll sort of jump off the ledge immediately, and then afterburner kick back on. You might see that a lot from him. That's what I'm excited to see.
Yeah, and it really was exciting to see the toolkit that can be used by these different players when they specialize in that fighter, because we really saw Bayonetta, who's someone that, again, maybe at some of the top level live tournaments that we see, hasn't had that representation that you typically saw in previous generations. It's the opportunity to see them really utilized by a highly skilled player that, regardless of matchups, and again, the fighter balance in this game here, Coney, of Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, yeah, we can have tiers, we can have that conversation, we can give them grades and put on the microwave and whatnot, but really, there's so much balance that there isn't really much separation between these different fighters. It's really how well you use them coming down to the player's skill set.
And right now, I think Arrow's going for a different strategy. I think they're actually trying to reset based on the match that they had before. I think Arrow was down 2 stocks to 3. So that's how we're going to start off this match.
And you like the sportsmanship, the gamesmanship right there, and nothing but respect. And we'll go on and on and on about the Smash community. But Vicky, we got some action in our face. We're excited to see it. Early thoughts, early impressions right now as we see Arrow Zero Suit Samus taking on Neri Satio as Isabelle.
Yeah, you have to consider the amount of times that Arrow has possibly played against a character like Isabelle, and the lack of matchup knowledge could also come into the factor here, as you could catch yourself getting hit by these unexpected slingshots, as well as you try to find yourself going off stage. But with that up the shield, it's going to try to keep Neri Satio at the disadvantage, though, being able to get back to the stage safely.
And of course, we have to talk about the fishing rod here, Coney, and the tool that can be for Isabelle as far as being able to set up a lot of those zones and traps on that stage control game.
Sure, I actually think while it's usually a great tool in our arsenal, especially against bigger, heavier characters, I don't know how effective it's going to be against Zero Suit, because Zero Suit is so mobile. She has that flip kick that you guys were talking about before. She can't really be edge guarded the same way that a lot of characters can. You see it right there, shoots out the fishing rod. Actually would have been punished, but very luckily had that Lloyd trap in the way, gets the up smash, and now is up 3 stocks to 1.
Neri Satio with the up smash, as we mentioned, taking a commanding 3-1 stock lead. And right now, Vicky, Neri Satio and Isabelle have been somewhat effective in slowing the approaches of the agile, mobile Zero Suit Samus controlled by Arrow.
And this is a situation, Jordan, that you don't want to be in, where, you know, you're at the disadvantage versus Isabelle. Now Neri Satio is going to be able to run with this lead and take this 3-stock game 1 versus Arrow, the player that we have seen go so far within the 2019 tournament, and now Neri Satio making a statement for themselves.
That's exactly what we were just talking about too. The slingshot just being so disruptive, jumping into it, using that flip kick, getting stuffed out, and then going for the panic air dodge, trying to get back to the stage. Just all options were covered. Excellent play there. Earns the 3 stock.
And Coney, that's a great point you make, because even though you're not going to rack up a ton of damage with that slingshot, it's just enough to interrupt your recovery options, eliminate those options. And we saw some terrific control of the stage by Neri Satio with Isabelle. And even though you have that mobility of Zero Suit Samus, you have a lot to navigate. And it's just 1 or 2 more things to think about if you're Arrow as you're trying to make your approaches.
Yeah, and I think this might be where the sort of difference in play style comes in that you and I were talking about before, where you're going to see their ability to sort of adapt play style. Arrow might need to maybe not think of a different character, but have a totally different idea in how he approaches this next match. But actually, he's going whole hog here. We've got Joker in the building.
We've got Joker, as you mentioned before here, and now Vicky, this kind of changes things up here, because with Joker, you've got a few more range options as far as you're approaching to Neri Satio and Isabel, but what are you liking the differences between a Joker versus a Zero Suit Samus here?
Well, now with Joker, you have Arsene on board, who is already at the kind of trying to find his way in. But Neri Satio, you see the way that Neri Satio is playing around Arrow, trying to buy that time away from the Arsene as the meter is ticking off. And at the same time, you also have to be wary of trying to throw out your slingshots. You do have that reflect as well coming in from Joker, and it could be very brutal trying to push forward and getting hit by that back air. You see Neri Satio jumping back into the stage to maintain that stage advantage.
Both fighters going back and forth at this point right now, still relatively fresh as a daisy. You see the landing options here, and that seems like it's going to be really important here, Coney, is how you can get out of disadvantage state if you're a Joker playing as Arrow.
Yeah, you can see him using that downward gun over and over, and it seems like Neri Satio doesn't really have an answer for it. As you can see, it just seems to keep stuffing him over and over. Isabel doesn't really have amazing juggle game, neither does Villager, just because you do have those turnips, but it can be kind of easy to get around the verticality of them. So I feel like Arrow's doing a much better job of actually getting back on the stage. Part of that just be because Kalos is just so large that he's able to maneuver around these platforms and has so much more real estate to land on.
It's Sunday, and you mentioned turnips. I know a lot of people are excited right now when they hear that. But Vicky, here we go. Neri Satio able to even things up, and you see the Lloyd Rocket planted into the ground on the right side of the stage. Going to go ahead and take Joker for a ride, and as you mentioned, not the greatest juggle game for Isabel, but Isabel remains calm and just seems to really react well to anything that Joker does, not trying to be overly aggressive here, Victor.
Yeah, Neri Satio overall has just been very well playing around Arrow's circle, not trying to be, even though pushing himself into this offstage game, he is just trying to buy himself time from the Arsene, and Arsene's back here covering that entire platform. You see the way that Neri Satio's been playing a lot more slower whenever that Arsene's on the board, and opting not trying to overcommit with that Lloyd Rocket planted on the ground. See him trying to force Arrow into his own personal space.
And Coney, this is what we're seeing from Neri Satio right now. If you want to have success against Joker, it's all about how you manage that time when Arsene is out on the field of play. And so far, Neri Satio has done a good job of negating the assistance that Arrow's looking for with Joker.
Yeah, I really think he's slowed it down quite a bit. The Isabel play has been much slower, a lot calmer. You saw him lose that first step pretty quickly, and Arrow was able to mount an offense, but now Neri Satio has really sort of slowed things down, pumped the brakes. And because of that, Arrow is now trailing by quite a bit, but it all comes down to this stock. Neri Satio has to land that KO blow, otherwise this could get out of hand, especially with that Arsene on him.
Neri Satio and Arrow down to their second stock, and there we go. The back throw coming from the fishing rod, an effective tool being used right there. That's a catch you'll take a picture with and hang up in the office, Vicky. And now Neri Satio has a chance here to create a little bit of separation. If you're Arrow, you figure you have to get the quick KO to even things up.
Yeah, the clean yeet and the double grab. Now Neri Satio running away with this advantage and stock lead over Arrow. Arrow trying to switch things up here. Now keeping Neri Satio in that situation, and although the side to the stage allows you to try to tech here, Neri Satio, despite being at 141, he is going to try to make it back using that fishing rod recovery and opting to maneuver himself around, tagging on the side of that stage like I was mentioning. And Neri Satio's awareness so far in this set has been amazing, and still living at 186. That's a thick puppy, Jordan.
And Arrow trying to knock it out of the longest part of the park, unable to do so as Neri Satio stays alive. And Coney, you really have to credit Neri Satio on the different recovery options, because we know Isabel very vulnerable if you go with that typical upbeat, trying to mix things up. Able to stay alive long enough, though, to build a nice little advantage going to the third and final stock.
Yeah, it's something that you really need to learn if you're going to be playing Villager, if you're going to be playing Isabel. You have to mix up recovery options. You obviously have the fishing pole. You can sometimes air dodge past your opponent, but there's a lot of M-lag on that. So you do have to... Oh my goodness! No way!
Oh,
The Lloyd Rocket into the fishing rod, into the upward throw. There was no way out of that.
Isabel using all the tools at her disposal to get the KO, advances past Arrow. And Vicky, you and Coney, we saw the reaction, just the really wise, intensive play that we saw from Isabel. Just once again, patience seemed to really be the theme of that game, slowing down that matchup against a very fast, aggressive rushdown character like Joker.
Yeah, I mean, Neri Seisho just played that amazingly. It's despite the fact that Neri Seisho also seemed to have had some matchup knowledge going forward against Joker. You have to imagine the opposite situation happening for Arrow. There isn't a lot of Isabel play being currently used in competitive, and now that Neri Seisho is up here and really displaying what Isabel's made out of, the follow-ups that were provided here, I'm going to say Jordan really caught Arrow off guard, and now proceeding through, Neri Seisho proceeding through the bracket.
Neri Seisho advancing to winners finals here as we take a look at the updated bracket once again. Neri Seisho moving on past Arrow will take on the winner of Leaf and Afro Ninja. And Leaf, we talked a little bit about Coney here at the top of the show. Leaf, one of those characters that, as I go through my notes here, I want to make sure I didn't leave anybody out. They had Bayonetta, Rosalina, and Luma, and Peach. And you look at almost 3 different play styles right there between those 3 fighters.
Yeah, it's you can find a lot of similarities between Peach and Bayonetta, right? They just want to get in, they want to do their damage. They can both do 60 to 80% combos sometimes if they get the correct hit. Rosalina is the wild card, and I'm interested to see how they come out. Because you got to keep in mind, there's 3 games at most. So I don't know if we're going to see all 3. We're probably only going to see 1 all the way through, but I think it really comes down to his opponent. And that's where the understanding of the characters comes in, because you have to know not only what's going to be good for you, but what's going to be bad for your opponents. So we're going to see how he does against Afro Ninja, who has used Cloud, but has also used Lucas, Byleth, and Sonic on his way to get here.
And to that point here, Coney, Vicky, you look at the fighters that Afro Ninja has used and just the variance in their neutral approaches that you're going to see with Cloud, Lucas, Byleth, and Sonic. To me, that seems to really speak. I've got different play styles I can throw at you, and if I can notice a weakness in my opponent's play style, I might switch my fighter to expose that.
Yeah, you know, he could get in your face, and because he's able to readjust that play style, switching through those characters, he could also slow it down. I mean, we saw that from Neri Seisho, where they were able to really slow down the pace when the Arsene was on board, and going through adapting around your opponent is the main key, Jordan. And if we could see that a bit from Afro Ninja, it could be a difficult time for Leaf. Now, representing the Bayonetta, we saw Bayonetta's coming out from, you know, regions 5 and 6 from Dialga, and now proceeding through here. We're going to be able to see if Leaf was able to sit down and take some notes, because Bayonetta's still on board here despite the lack of KO potential. She's still able to really dominate within the neutral whenever it comes to jumping around her personal space.
As we mentioned, these 4 fighters, Afro Ninja, Arrow, Neri Seisho, and Leaf, the top 4 of nearly 3,000 entrants in our region 3 and 4. They will be fighting for a download code for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters Pass Volume 2, a Splatoon 2 game, an ARMS game as well. And one interesting thing about Leaf here, Coney, Leaf used a different fighter in all of their matches throughout their bracket finals to get here. And so to me, that speaks to, I might not necessarily do a counter pick. I'm going to make sure that I don't show anybody any of my trends or give anybody too much tape on myself to really scout me, because we saw this different fighter chosen at the start of every single match. It wasn't just counter picks in the second game.
And maybe there's more to come. I mean, we've only seen a couple of the characters. Maybe there's other stuff up his sleeve near the end of the tournament. I mean, now's the point where you really gotta give it your all and put the pedal to the metal. So we'll see how he does here. It's going to be going up against Afro Ninja, who, again, we've seen mostly do Cloud, who has a lot of presence online. That's one of the things you were just talking about, how it can be difficult to scout these guys out if they try to, you know, limit their play style, if they try to change up things every single game. We know what Cloud's going to do. We've seen Cloud at all levels of play. We've seen him all over the place, especially since all these tournaments have gone online. So I'm very interested to see what Afro Ninja can bring to the table with that character that's unique, that's different, that we haven't seen before. I think that's going to be the differentiator in this set.
And Vicky, looking at the fighter selection we've seen from Afro Ninja, you've got Cloud, Lucas, Byleth, and Sonic. Sonic, one of those fighters that has a very interesting neutral game. It's unlike most other fighters on this roster. What do you notice about Sonic's neutral game, where he's trying to take advantage and build that momentum and lead in a given match?
Patience, Jordan, and especially when it comes to online, Sonics really like to work around, you know, spinning around you and just throwing out these hitboxes and just running away. Being the fastest character in the game, he kind of forces you to play his pacing. And if you do fall into the habit where you want to hold forward, you want to land your hits, you're losing that momentum as a player, and you're giving the mind games back to the Sonic players that are actually able to take advantage of you getting a little too impatient in the matchup.
And looking at Sonic, Coney, one of those fighters that doesn't necessarily play well from behind, if that makes sense. You really want to take advantage of the whiffs and mistakes of your opponent when they're being aggressive, trying to get back in the match. So it seems like if Afro Ninja chooses Sonic, if you're Leaf, you really want to make sure you get that early advantage in that matchup.
Yeah, I think that if you're going to be fighting Sonic, I think his best play would be to play something like Rosalina and Luma that can also sort of play on their back foot, can play more defensive and just try to whiff punish. Because if you play somebody like Bayonetta or Peach, who can somewhat have linear approaches, Bayonetta more so than Peach, but if you play somebody that has to hold forward, that has to come to you over and over, I think Sonic can really bait that out, sort of take a step back, and then just hit a haymaker. I think Rosalina and Luma would be better for that, but I mean, that's his fourth character, right? Both of these guys have so many things in their pocket. Interested to see what they go with for game one.
All right, let's get set for our next match here in our semifinals of the winners bracket. And we've got Peach being used as Afro Ninja chooses, of course, of as many options, Lucas here. And Vicky, early thoughts on this match?
I think, following up actually from what Coney said, when it comes to Peach's approach option, you're going to have to be careful because the moment you do opt to commit to that flow, the moment you do jump into that personal space of Lucas, you could find yourself getting hit a lot as the PK fires are coming out from Afro Ninja, just trying to space out around Leaf overall. And now with that being said, though, the follow-ups coming up from the turnips, the damage output from Peach is immense. And although you could be at a disadvantage, you're never really at a disadvantage as Peaches. You are going to be able to rack up that damage pretty easily, especially with these turnips.
Yeah, and Coney, one thing I really love about Peach and Daisy players is that you can have so many different combos at different percentages, where other fighters are very sensitive as far as, okay, I can do a combo in this range. Seems like for Peach and Daisy, it doesn't matter where you're at, you can lead into a combo.
Yep. They've got answers for pretty much anything. Obviously, the one that most people know is the down tilt at 0 or early on, but there are so many sort of routes that she can go down, especially if she has a turnip in her hand. Just so many things are available, and it seems like he's just sort of running over Afro Ninja so far. He's got a, 150% lead, but Afro Ninja holding on to that stock as long as he can.
Coney, I love the quick math right there. No calculator or abacus.
It took a second. I gotta be honest. I was a little nervous.
We'll have someone graded afterwards as Leaf takes the first stock over Afro Ninja. And Vicky, we saw some of the edge guarding here coming out from Leaf. It's just chucking turnips trying to time up when that PK Thunder is going to be used by Lucas, because with your Lucas, you don't really have a lot of creative options to get back on this map here.
Yeah, especially when you're committing to the PK Thunder. You see that Leaf is trying to utilize these turnips, trying to give them right at the start of it, not when he already manages to hit himself back to the stage, but the amount of control that Leaf has currently on the stage, despite Afro Ninja being pretty passive and just trying to space out Leaf with these PK fires, it hasn't really been working out for him, because now being down an entire stock, he needs to figure out a way to try to get a little bit more aggressive. But Leaf is kind of playing the same pace with him, where every time he does close in that space, doing a side B right into the attempt here of the up smash, and Afro Ninja still back in the game here, though he is going to have to climb a bit of an 83% disadvantage.
Yeah, Coney, that up smash coming out of Afro Ninja, one of those attacks in the game where it just catches you off guard because the hitbox lands for so long, and there's the PK freeze that is one of the most important pieces of Lucas's toolkit.
Yeah, Afro Ninja is really starting to come alive in this second stock, and it sort of harkens back to what we were talking about, how it comes down to being able to outlast your opponent, to outpace them over time. I mean, if you're riding Epona and Zelda, you don't want to eat all the carrots at once, you know what I mean? You gotta wait a second, take your time, have some patience. And Afro Ninja is really showing that here. I wonder if Leaf may be getting a little frustrated and his approach has become more and more obvious and telegraphed, and Afro Ninja is really playing with it.
Yeah, you saw that. We just saw a sequence where Afro Ninja did a fine job of being able to avoid the side B, leading to an advantage state. And up, side B connects there, though, Vicky. And you can't get caught sleeping. Leaf taking a 2-1 stock lead.
Yeah, deceiving. Although he did let go of shield right there, being able to bounce off the shields, if that were to be the case, he could just try to come back with a forward air, but now being able to get back out of that disadvantage. Still, Afro Ninja in the game and evening things out with that up air, chasing after Leaf, recognizing that because he was up in this air, he was able to take advantage of just following up right behind him with the up air.
Yeah, Afro Ninja doing a fine job of regaining control of this game here, Tony, before it gets out of control. And as you said before, both fighters starting to really sort of learn the other's play style. And we're seeing this evolution throughout this matchup right now. It's really fun to watch how they're both adapting so quickly on the fly.
Yeah, there's a level of adaptation that we're seeing sort of come alive here. And it really comes down to who's going to get this final blow, because Afro Ninja, he's been holding on to his stocks for so long that now 92, that doesn't seem like much for him. As long as he can avoid sort of an offstage forward air, or God forbid, something like a bomb, you know, if she's able to pull a stitch base or something like that, he might be okay in this set. Although now he's in an uncomfortable spot that Leaf not able to take advantage.
Yeah, Vicky, it seems like Afro Ninja's able to get the initial attack in neutral, but can't follow up to create combos, and so you have to really credit Leaf for getting out of those combo opportunities and making that disadvantage state last so shortly.
Yeah, Leaf is not getting too impatient here, actually opting to use a lot more of these turnips, saying, you know, if you're gonna try to space me out with these PK fires, I have turnips at my own to be able to keep you grounded and force you to try to approach me, because those turnips do rack up a lot of damage, and that side B, once again, gonna close out the stock, and Leaf taking the first game over Afro Ninja.
Yeah, that side B, a reliable KO move. We saw it twice there, Coney. And once again, it was really just the inability of Afro Ninja to follow up on those initial attacks. Whereas when you took a look at what we were seeing from Leaf, just able to get a few more strikes in that neutral game and has a little bit more KO power than what we see there with Lucas, who was a little bit limited as far as what they could do in that final stock. But both fighters really giving us a terrific match there.
Oh, yeah, incredible match, and I'm very interested to see if this is going to go to a game 3, because if you remember, Leaf had a very strong start and sort of tapered off for a little bit as Afro Ninja sort of started to develop, and then Leaf came back there at the end, hit that Peach Bomber, and got the KO. And if the tail is the same throughout the set, obviously Leaf is going to be ahead, but both of these guys have such deep pockets, have other characters they might use. So I'm interested to see where things go. And of course, the stage is another thing. The stage is going to be randomly chosen from a small pool. And I think whoever gets the stage that they're going for will be at a pretty big advantage, I think. I think this really favors Leaf, but I didn't expect a Lucario.
Afro Ninja deciding to go with the steel and fighting type here as they take on Peach. And Lucario, as we know, it's all about that aura mechanic here that really separates Lucario from the rest of the fighting cast here. But how do you use that best to your advantage here when you look at this?
Now, we're talking about the damage output that Leaf was able to put on, especially as Peach. Tony mentioned, you know, the famous 0% down tilt extension of combos that Peach could do, but now, as Lucario gets all this damage, we saw that Afro Ninja was able to survive so long as Lucas, and that's super lethal when you are playing a character like Lucario, who is going to be able to take advantage of that aura that's going to be racking up to take early stocks off of Leaf instead.
As we know here, Coney, Lucario kind of middle-of-the-road stats across the board, but it's that aura mechanic that really separates. You're really going to have to make sure that you make the most of when you have that aura, because other than that, you don't really have a lot of things in your toolkit that really helps you stand out amongst everybody else when you're sitting there 25-50%. So if survival is the game, it's going to be all about it for Lucario and Afro Ninja in this matchup.
Lucario, sometimes if he's at 0%, his hits could do as low as 3% for landing a blow. He's not really a combo character either. You might string a couple forward airs, but that is where he shines. That random back air out of nowhere, locking in at 100% on Leaf. He was at 105 after the hit, so let's keep that in mind. As long as Afro Ninja can hold on to this stock, he's going to do significant damage.
And this is such a good point here, Vicky, because you're going to look for some singular powerful hits as Afro Ninja goes ahead and gets launched off the stage here, because that combo game is going to change up so much if you are Lucario, because you've got to factor in aura, your opponent's damage, a lot of different things you have to calculate throughout this matchup.
Yeah, you know, because he lost that stock and now he's at early percent here, he's going to be able to get hit on a lot easier by Leaf, but his moves might not do that much of an impact compared to when he is at a higher percent. He is going to have to try to rack up this damage nonetheless, so that way when he does get to that threshold of that percentage where the aura starts to matter, it starts to make a big difference. But giving Afro Ninja would have been a big deal here for Leaf, and he almost called out the roll, unfortunately letting rip of the up smash a little too early, and now with this disadvantage state, Leaf being able to get back to the stage, utilizing that Peach Bomber, and now flipping up the situation into his favor with Afro Ninja having to come back.
And Coney, you mentioned you got to watch out for those back airs from Afro Ninja when you start to get to 100 plus damage. And this is really where Afro Ninja has to make some smart reads against Leaf to find those openings.
It can be very difficult because all the pressure's on you, right? You're at 120, 130, and you think, I cannot lose this stock. I need to hold on to it like he did there. He eats the down tilt. He only took 35 for his trouble. It could have been much worse, but yeah, when he's that high, he's thinking in his head, I have to land this KO now because if I get in a high KO percent on my last stock, I'm one hit away from losing the game. Now he's at 70, which isn't especially high, so we'll see how he adapts here. Might be a 2-0 for Leaf.
Leaf needs one more stock to go ahead and move on against Naristaccio in the winner's final here. But don't forget, Afro Ninja, as that Lucario, as so many of you are familiar, the higher the damage, the more dangerous they get. Afro Ninja, that Aura Sphere, able to connect, and Vicky, the accuracy and timing needed there in order to take a precious stock.
And that was super necessary. Now that Leaf is at his last stock, although you have Afro Ninja sitting at a nice 106%, this is what he likes. He wants to be able to utilize the aura that comes with playing Lucario that could really allow this comeback factor to work in his favor. And now also trying to be safe. He doesn't want to tack on too much damage where he's going to get launched off the stage, but rather now flip the situation in his favor where Leaf is going to get put into that disadvantage. And letting go of shield too early is going to be a demise with Leaf taking it over Afro Ninja in a clean 2-0.
And Coney, that side B has really been just a KO machine for Leaf in the last couple of games that we saw here. And it comes out so quickly, it can just catch you off guard in the neutral, it seems like.
It can also catch you jumping a lot as your opponent is sort of trying to find their way in, trying to jump into you. It can really sort of catch you off guard. And it's not all that easy to react to. I mean, you want to be holding shield a lot against Peach anyway because she's going to be hitting you. But sometimes you think you're safe at that mid-range because she's somewhat of a short-range fighter other than her forward air, which is sort of that, like, she dives in on you. So it can really catch people off guard if they're not used to fighting it.
And Vicky, that's the problem with trying to choose a fighter that wants to operate at a high percentage against Peach. Peach loves it when you've got a high percentage because you have so many KO tools at your disposal. So that's a situation where you'd really evaluate the matchup. You obviously understand that Afro Ninja is very capable with Lucario, but that seemed to be a dangerous game to play as far as wanting to be in those triple digits against a Peach that is just so capable of getting those KOs.
Yeah, especially on that top platform right there. I mean, although it was a toss-up right there, you had Leaf, who still was at an early percent, despite the aura being a scary factor, and being able to keep your opponent on their toes when they see, oh, I'm on the platform right now. Peach really excels at platform pressuring, especially from below, between those up airs. You saw that Leaf didn't really have to utilize that, instead opting to go for the side, because in the case that it did happen to miss, the ricochet off of the shield put him in onto the other lower platform, or he could just fast fall through the platform in general and try to approach in a more safer way.
So up next, we have Naristaccio taking on Leaf as we take a look at the updated bracket here. And both Leaf and Naristaccio, no issues whatsoever, Coney, advancing to winner's final. We saw Naristaccio with Isabelle, and then Leaf, of course, using Peach. And so what do you make of that matchup if that's what we happen to see here in this winner's final?
This is going to be really interesting, I think. I think on paper, Peach wins it just because Peach is such a strong character. If she gets one hit, she'll get 20. You know, she's just so powerful in the combo game. But I think that Isabelle has a lot of tools to deal with Peach just because Isabelle's very sort of anti-air. Peach wants to come in at you from that 45-degree angle. She wants to come right down on top of you. She loves floating right above you. If she's limited to her ground game, she's not especially strong. So I'm interested to see what Naristaccio can do with Isabelle in this matchup. I do know, obviously, Afro Ninja tried to play the keep away game with Lucas. It didn't really work out all that well. Lucas has somewhat of a similar style because he can throw those PK fires at a horizontal distance and also throw that up smash out like we saw for the 1 KO, catching Peach jumping. But I think Isabelle, especially the way that Naristaccio is playing Isabelle, might be well suited for this matchup. I definitely could see this going to game 3 either way.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because, Vicky, we saw with Isabelle those anti-air options. I think to close out the game is the combination of the Lloyd Rocket and the fishing rod in midair. And once again, you can't rule out that fair with the slingshot and how it can really interrupt a lot of approaches. So if that's the case, whereas Neri Satio has stuck with Isabel through all of their matches, I'm excited to see what they can do against Peach potentially.
Yeah, I mean, we saw also Leaf use a plethora of other characters throughout the bracket just to get here. And although Peach could be the character that we see starting off the first match, you know, you still have Leaf representing the Rosalina. You know, you could have any other type of fighter that, you know, we could see coming forward. But at the same time, the way that Neri Satio was able to play Isabel, especially against the Joker matchup where he was able to slow down his own pace, that's going to be something very crucial into this matchup because the pressure that Neri Satio was able to provide when he was in your face, it wasn't the passive Isabel fade back with the slingshot. It was in your face. Oh, you're holding shield because you're scared of my slingshot or my Lloyd Rocket. That's a grab and that's a back throw that you have to be careful of.
And Coney, that's a great point that Vicky brings up here. Being able to dictate the pace of a game. We've seen some fighters that really want to speed things up, or like an example of Isabel versus Joker, trying to slow things down. It seems like if you are the one that can dictate pace, you really have the momentum in a given game.
Usually that's the case. The only caveat to that would be there are some characters that are forced to play a certain pace. Peach is not one of them. Peach can either be in your face trying to get down tilts, trying to get hits, forcing you to shield so she can get grabs, or she can pull turnips and she could just sit back, lay out, throw the turnips at you, try to get damage from a distance, get, 12% as she can, 12, 15, 30, just rack it up very quickly. She can do either. Isabel, not great at the rush down. She's very good at keeping her distance, using the slingshot, making traps with Lloyd Rockets. But if she's trying to get up close to you, the grab is pretty slow. Fishing Rod is not a close-up option. The neutral air doesn't have much range. There's just not much on Isabel's sort of in her toolkit that is really designated for that up-close style. So I'd be interested to see how Neri Satio can really play to his strengths in this upcoming matchup if he ends up having to put his foot on the gas here.
All right, well, it looks like both players are ready to go here as we get set for our winners final. Neri Satio taking on Leaf, and here we see Leaf go with Bayonetta here, Vicky, and some interesting choices here because you've got some differences clearly between Bayonetta and Peach. Where do you think they can find the advantage in this matchup?
Well, getting close into Neri Satio's space and continuously applying the pressure, similar to what we could have seen from Peach, but now just opting to stay in the air and also take advantage of the lackluster recovery that we have seen from Isabel. Especially on this stage, though, Neri Satio had no problem on DIing towards the stage to tech within their first game that we had seen with Arrow. Now, we could possibly see that again, and something that, Leaf is going to have to watch out for is trying to get into that close space of Neri Satio because those slingshots are going to shut him down.
And Coney, we've talked about it, the great disruptor, the slingshot coming from Isabel, already proving effective here. But it seems like players, once they get a couple of reps against an Isabel player trying to utilize that, we talk about how you want to condition somebody so I can predict how they're doing, but I'm also going to learn how you're going to try and set me up and how I can best avoid all these traps.
Yeah, there are ways around it, especially for characters like Bayonetta. There are ways to get under or around or sometimes even over the slingshot, so I'm interested to see how Leaf does it, but I've got to be honest, I think Bayonetta against Isabel wouldn't be quite as good as Peach. Maybe he's a little concerned over what we were talking about earlier, the just sort of anti-air capabilities of Isabel, or maybe he just wants to do so much damage from one single hit, but Isabel getting the KO with that down tilt, can't say I've seen that a whole bunch. Neri Satio taking an early lead.
Neri Satio, as you mentioned, 3-2 stock advantage, trying to find the separation here. As once again, we just haven't seen Bayonetta, much like we saw with Dialga in our last final of Region 5 and 6 here, Vicky, just rush you down and be in your face because of the Lloyd Rocket, because of the slingshot. So really give Neri Satio a lot of credit for slowing down Leaf and their momentum.
Yeah, you can see at the attempt, though, coming in from Leaf, trying to maneuver around the Lloyd Rocket, and with that up, he's so close to the blast zone, that's going to be it for the first stock of Neri Satio, but still with a little bit of an advantage here. You see Neri Satio being able to control the pacing thus far, where forcing Leaf to try to play around the Lloyd Rocket at the same time without trying to overcommit.
Neri Satio, 2-2, trying to build up some more damage on Leaf. We see Leaf here finally trying to get some stage control here, gets Neri Satio in the air, and that's what you want to do if you're Bayonetta. You got to get them launched up in the air. They have a terrific juggle game, Tony.
Oh, and Isabel apparently has a terrific spike game. believe he was able to land that off stage. Leaf just making one mistake, air dodging a little bit too low. You had to imagine the Bayonetta would have been able to make it back just because her recovery is so strong. But that one mistake, just, you can see Narcisio even still, one single error and Leaf pays for it heavily.
And that's what happens at this level here, Vicky, especially really good characters like Narcisio that know how to trap you, find their openings. They will be aggressive, but only when the window is there and they were able to take advantage of it. Now it's all Narcisio just slinging Leaf off the side of the stage to get the KO. And you are stunned here, Vicky.
I honestly, Jordan, take it aback. Talk about character specialists. I don't know how I feel about such a innocent, happy Isabel waving at me in the victory screen with the amount of dominance that Narcisio really applied in that match, and also a statement of its own. I mean, the fact that you just had Leaf struggle on even placing his feet on the ground because that fishing rod just shut him down every single time out of the recovery. It's a difficult feat here, but Narcisio in the game and keeping his head forward, trying to get into the grand finals, Jordan.
Yeah, Coney, you see Leaf with Bayonetta trying to get to work, but a lot of traffic in the way. And let's see if there is a fighter change coming out from Leaf as they get set to face Narcisio. I doubt we're going to see Isabel go to the bench anytime near soon, Coney.
Yeah, we're going to Daisy, which I do think is the correct choice. Although I will say, I think more than anything, the stage really hurt Leaf there. Kalos being a huge, just flat, even stage, just giving Narcisio so much space to set up his traps. I think Lylat might be better suited for Peach and Daisy, but you can see already what we were talking about before, Peach being able to slow things down, Daisy being able to pluck those turnips. You saw Narcisio taking one, the first throw of the game, and he just snatches it right up.
Yeah, Narcisio going to have to combat some platforms now. That's going to go ahead and give Leaf a couple more approach options here, Vicky, because it changes the stage, changes the way that if you are Narcisio, you're trying to set up these traps to get Leaf to fall into. And so far, both fighters barely going back and forth, but the first stock going to be claimed by Leaf as they get on the board.
Yeah, just being able to get that positive trade, but with the retaliation right back, Narcisio letting Leaf know that you can't get too comfortable here, and with the amount of pressure that Narcisio has been able to apply, I definitely have to agree the Daisy pick gonna really help out Leaf in trying to make this comeback from the set and trying to secure his way, but the turnip actually interrupting Narcisio there from the attempt on getting the fishing rod on board and trying to get a string going on, and 85% already tacked onto Narcisio. The damage output can't be said the same about Isabel versus Daisy / Peach.
Yeah, and Coney, we have to get the pom-poms out and cheer for that Nair that's coming out frequently from Narcisio, because that's been an important tool that we have given so much credit to the fair, but the Nair has been really, really vital for the success of Narcisio.
It's especially good against Daisy just because the character doesn't, again, not a whole lot of range. It's easy to get up there and sort of have your burst just come out first if you can kind of meet her in the air. And that's what you saw on the left side of the stage when Narcisio got that first kill, and the fishing rod all the way at the top, almost getting the KO, not quite. And now it's basically dead even between these two. Such an even fought game.
Yeah, I was going to say there, Coney, that was from the three-point line with that fishing rod right there. And now both fighters, this has been a really tightly contested match here, Vicky. Over 100% each. Second stock, you're trying to find some separation, but they are both relentless. But there we go. Once again, Narcisio able to make the right read and punish.
Yeah, being able to go through that platform rather quickly, just throwing out the upper so that way you can try to take out and leave stock successfully. And the pressure again between the Lloyd Rocket and the Slingshot, trying to force Leaf to hold on to that shield so that way you have Narcisio being able to follow from a grab, but does have to be careful to jumping into that personal space of Leaf. You see Leaf already throwing out the up smash out of shield, but that is to say if he gets another opportunity to do so, as you have Narcisio already running away with the lead and also keeping him up in the air, but with the reverse confrontation here, Leaf being able to even out the stock lead, but not the percentage lead, Jordan.
Yeah, and Coney, you talked about the juggling game of Isabella not being the strongest, but so far, we've seen just some really solid 1-2 combos where it's a down throw into one hit in the aerial, and that's really helped Narcisio rack up some damage and build this advantage.
I think that really just comes to Narcisio, his skills as a player. No, is that really? No way! That early?
Yes! That's what we both say when our kids wake up, too.
Oh my gosh,
Looking at the watch thinking, come on now, at least give me 6
I'm out of
a.m.
focus. I'm totally out of focus. That knocked my cam out of focus. That was wild.
It's all good. We'll let you go ahead and get recalibrated here in just a second. But
Oh, my
Vicky, as we
goodness.
said before, Isabel, a fighter here where that fishing rod can catch you off guard. And we saw a couple of really long distance connections that Neri Satio was able to connect upon and really catch Leaf off guard, it seemed like. I think all of us here are sitting, wait a second, caught them from where? Launched them off the map where? So very impressive, surprising victory by Isabel Neri Satio there.
And even trying to go for the follow-up for the Lloyd Rocket too. Neri Satio was on a different game here and also was able to utilize the pressure from the Lilac platforms, being able to throw out the fishing rod that actually lingers a little bit below the platforms too to follow up, catching a good amount of space and catching also Leaf off guard because he is trying to approach floating up in the air, jumping towards Neri Satio, and it really provided Neri Satio the opportunity to really take full advantage of that and proceeding through Neri Satio, taking the game over Leaf.
So let's go ahead and take a look at the bracket here and see the updated bracket as we see Neri Satio getting the 2-0 victory over Leaf. And that'll send Neri Satio to grand finals where it will be best of 3. You see the loser semifinal, that'll be Arrow versus Afro Ninja. And much like we did in region 5 and 6, this is where we will take a very short pause and then pick up with more action here from the finals of region 5 and 6. As we mentioned earlier, Region 3 and 4 finals coming up right after the short break. You're watching the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate North American Online Open, May 2020.